sometimes we have a coincidence, don't we? And we
Yeah.
have. Guess who we've got? No, we haven't got Don Henley or Timothy B. Schmidt, but we have got the very next best thing. Very best. That's like very first, isn't it?
Yeah.
Our guest today is a gentleman called Peter Timms, and he is based somewhere in Queensland, but he is part of an outfit called Kings of Country Rock, and they are coming to G-Town, and we thought we better chat to Peter, and we say good morning to you, Peter. You got Neil here. The other one is Rob.
Morning, Neil and Rob. How are you?
Excellent.
Doing very well.
Thank you so much for joining us, Peter. Now, which one of the Eagles do you get to be Timothy B?
I get to be Don Henley.
Oh, hello, he's the boss.
Oh, pulled rank. I like it.
Yeah. He can't play the drums to save himself, but he's in charge. Is that what you mean?
Well, I'm certainly in charge, but it's challenging to fill the role of Don Henley. He's a phenomenal singer. Created all of those iconic drum fills that you hear on the records and all of those iconic hits, and a fabulous songwriter too. So he's a pivotal key ingredient to the Eagles' secret sauce, if you want to place it like that.
That's very much the case when you get down to the heart of the matter.
Now,
do you see what I've done there?
Peter, we have spoken to a few chaps like yourself doing this particular role, and one of the great joys I had was going to see Echoes of Pink Floyd, which was a band that were astonishingly accurate to the original, and that was their intention. Not so much the personalities of the band, but the sound. In your case, you mentioned about the privilege of being Don Henley, and they all had their own little persona. For you, is it about imitating the group fully, or is it just the sound you're trying to emanate?
So what the Kings of Country Rock tour is, it's a sonic celebration of the Eagles' greatest hits, and then the second part of the show is Creedence Clearwater Revival, which we'll get into in our chat. But the Eagles part is, it embodies the feel and some of the elements of the look. We don't 100% go into replicate what the Eagles look like on stage. We find it should be more about the celebration of that wealth of the history and catalogue of that band, because they are one of the iconic groups of all time.
One of the points that I know that Paul spoke to us about, the guy from the Pink Floyd group, is close your eyes and you're at a Pink Floyd event. Is that a bit what we're talking about here, both in terms of the Eagles and Creedence?
Oh, 100%. And, everybody in the show is handpicked. They're all pro players, so they've all come from a rich background. And what we do is strive to get the accuracy that you see, that you hear on the albums and on the recordings. And what we deliver live is 100% live. So all of those fabulous harmonies, all of those great guitar riffs, all of the finer points that, not tribute bands. A lot of tribute bands strive to get it right, but we take it that little more nth degree where we spend, an entire rehearsal session just getting down, the finer points.
Yeah. When you're a young fella starting off in the industry, what were your intentions as opposed to the current outcome?
Sorry, you just dropped out there for a second.
Sorry, I was just saying, on a personal level, when you started off in the music industry, what was your intention at the time as opposed to the way things have worked out?
Oh, boy, at 14 years old, the intention was to be the best I could be, and, by 16 years old, I was in my first touring shows. By 18, I was on the road with original acts, and spent most of my time doing that. But now the current state of play has leaned more towards, what the tribute band, if you will, circuit is. And there's definitely a market for what we do and for what other bands are doing, because people can't go and see the originals anymore.
What inspired a 14-year-old Peter Timms?
Oh, boy. Dare I say it, in our household we grew up on a healthy diet of Slim Dusty, Johnny Cash, all of those great country artists. Dad was a phenomenal country artist collector. He just, any time he was home from work, it was on.
Yeah.
So, when you're exposed to that all the time and you're absorbing all of those musical elements, it leaves a lasting mark.
So was it guitar and mimicking for you at that age?
Not so much guitar. I had a crack at playing guitar for a while and I went, this definitely isn't for me. And, I always had an alignment with, drumming and drums and playing drums. So I took to that really quickly and absorbed as much knowledge as I could get from a couple of great teachers along the way, one being Cole Gillies up here in Brisbane, Cole Gillies Rudimental Drum School, and he set me on the path of enlightenment to, drumming expertise.
Rock bands, the drummer is a key element, but Slim Dusty's backing band, I don't think many would have talked about the drummer back in those days in any sort of country music, but it's the rock element that drew you into the drums?
It did at that age, yeah. And but now as I delve back into past history, listening to those early Johnny Cash albums and Dad's collection of music, you can just hear how pivotal the percussive elements are in those songs.
And they would have been ideal for a young drummer because they wouldn't have been very complex, would they? We're not talking about Ringo on Come Together. They would have been stuff that would be a really good starting point to work your way into something more complex.
Oh, 100%. Lots of shuffle, lots of, swing, 2/4. They weren't overly complex to adapt to. But, as time goes on, you go back and go, oh, there's a little bit more in that when you peel away the onion skin.
So a bit more likely to be mimicking voices. And did you have favourites that you thought your voice best matched back in those days?
Yeah, I could. Back in the early days, I was a dead ringer for Bon Scott, so I fronted a few AC/DC bands for a while, and also played in some other shows. But I was in a touring Guns N' Roses show for a while, fronting that, doing Axl Rose. But as time goes on, you can't cane the body 365 days a year and flog the voice and then expect it to hold up year in and year out. So you've got to dial back and continue on with things that are quite doable.
Good thing about Eagles, of course, and not the Eagles, Rob, but Eagles, is that you can share the vocals around a bit. One of the few bands that had more than one high-quality lead singer.
Yeah, 100%. And Grant Carruthers, who takes on the Glenn Frey role. Grant is a phenomenal singer, phenomenal multi-instrumentalist, and most importantly, he looks like a young Glenn Frey.
And obviously listening with that sort of rap, so good morning to you, Glenn.
The big star, the whole 9 yards.
So interesting, you made a comment before about the fact, you go along and you'll hear how the album sounds. One song that always fascinates me from Eagles is Hotel California. You may know the tune. But if you listen to the version that was put together for the Hell Freezes Over tour in '94, where I think it was Joe Walsh, wasn't it, at the start, playing that, no, I think it might be Randy Meisner who's playing the Flamingo version of it. Are you more inclined to take on the sound of live versions, or are you more likely to take on the sound of a studio album?
We take on, so musicality-wise, we take on the studio albums.
Mm-hmm.
With all of the Eagles albums, it's well known now and well documented that harmony-wise, there's anything up to 40 tracks of harmonies layered for them to on any one particular track, which you can't replicate live. So we always go to the live versions to decipher what's the best course of action to deliver that. We're in the unique position where we have 6 vocalists in the show. So we replicate, you know, if you're getting Seven Bridges, you're getting that. If you're getting Hotel California, you're getting those rich harmonies. We have 4 guitar players in the band, as our keyboardist is also a guitar player and a great singer. You know, we replicate all of the guitar parts on Hotel California, the album version.
Well, we all love Eagles, but many of us who are a little older love Creedence as well. But I would have thought from just listening, quite a contrast for some group that's trying to copy them, particularly vocally. How much different as a group do you work together doing that transformation within the one show?
What we do, again, we're in the unique position where we have extremely talented players who have starred in amazing shows around the world. And Scott Buddy Cameron, who starred in Buddy the Musical, which toured the world, and then Buddy the Concert. He played the lead role of that. Phenomenal guitar player, phenomenal vocalist, and he plays the role of John Fogerty, and has the unique ability to deliver those iconic vocals and John's guitar solos.
Yeah, it's
when Scott gets on stage and he starts to sing, you know, people are completely, you know, gobsmacked at how accurately great he is.
Yeah, and as far as the production side, I suppose as talented musicians, you get to the stage where, I'm not suggesting it's easy, but things become pretty comfortable for you. So in the presentation of the two musics, are they vastly different in how you play guitar and the working together as a group?
Yeah, 100%. They're musically, they're, you know, polar opposites, but they're not too dissimilar on some elements. So, you know, Eagles is more that, you know, country rock, West Coast laid-back vibe. Creedence Clearwater Revival is more that swamp rock, that, you know, the blues holler. And then they have their crossover section of their country rock stuff where they delved into that country rock element. So, you know, when you're approaching Creedence, it's got to be done with that sort of, you know, lazy blues vibe.
I've asked this question before to others in this tribute band area. If it all fell over tomorrow and there's no more Eagles and there's no more Creedence, what as a group do you think you'd do well as well?
Well, we work with a gentleman up here in Brisbane called Chris Muller as one of our other shows that we go out with, which is Forever Now. The Cold Chisel Jimmy Barnes show, so it's the greatest hits of that. And Chris, again, is a phenomenal singer. So, you know, we've always got other vehicles that we can go to. Again, got the Buddy thing. Grant is an original solo artist in his own right, so there's always other things to go and play and do. And
do you have challenges now that you really want to look forward to say, right, our skill set's really good, but we really need to be challenged more? How about we go and do something completely different?
We actually, now, strange you mention that, where our new show will be coming out later in the year, that we're working alongside a couple of other musicians to bring to life a show called Hollywood Nights.
Well, that's got a touch of the Bob Seger's about it.
Yes, yeah, exactly right. It's called Hollywood Nights, but it's a celebration of Glenn Frey and Bob Seger and their lifelong friendship together, and how they helped each other write some of the greatest hits together. A lot of the Eagles, what's widely not known is Glenn Frey, Don Henley, Timothy B. Smith would go in and, you know, sing backing vocals on Bob Seger songs. What helped Glenn write Heartache Tonight. And Glenn's gone and done backing vocals on some of Bob's stuff.
I can, my favourite favourite album. Oh, sorry, no, second favourite. Hot August Night, number one. But the Travelling Wilburys. That I'm just imagining that weekend when that thing was created, and all these great friendships of names that we don't necessarily think would come together, but great friendships, and I imagine great talent getting together, and that environment for creativity is quite spectacular. And that is one I didn't realise that had happened, but it sort of makes sense.
Well, there's also a couple of others there. Jackson Brown was very close with the Eagles, particularly in the early days, and also the Eagles played behind Linda Ronstadt for a very long time.
They did, yeah.
She didn't know. It was really annoying. No, she did.
She didn't know, but if you look back through history, it was her suggestion and eventually her insistence that said, you guys should be a band. You're great together. And out of that came the first inception of the Eagles.
But she did say to them, it's not easy.
That's
That's the third one of those I've slipped in today, and I trust you're enjoying them. So the show, as you say, has got two parts to it, and Rob, you'll be very pleased to know it's called The Kings of Country Rock, Eagles versing Creedence Clearwater.
Oh, no.
We have a bit of a game here where we love people saying versing instead of verses, hence the reference. So the first half, as far as I can see, is going to be Eagles. And that goes for an hour or so. There's a break, and then 70 minutes worth of Creedence, and I'm assuming a little bit of encore activity.
Oh, absolutely. And again, there's a few secret elements in there that we drop in the encore that people don't expect, and they go.
Linda Ronstadt comes out.
Yeah, I wish, but the audience members are like, wow, I've waited all night for my favourite song and I haven't played it yet, and bam, there it is in the encore. So
it was the great Mike Rudd who wrote a song called "Play Us One We Know," because everyone used to want him to play "I'll Be Gone." He never would until he got to the encore, so he actually wrote a song called "Play Us One We Know."
That's exactly it. You leave the best for last.
Yes, indeed.
Peter, I imagine there'd be some subtle variations in your shows, and you'd be searching for perfection constantly. Have you had one of those nights where, as a group, the curtain goes down, encores are being completed, you're at the back having a stubby, and you hear amongst the group, "Yep, I reckon that's about as good as it can be done." Have you had one of those nights yet?
We tend not to pat ourselves on the back. We tend to look at each show, dissect it in the tour bus, have a listen back to the console recordings, and then do our analogies from there to make sure that, it is hitting the benchmark and it is where it needs to be. But what we rely on the most is the meet and greet after the show. And when audience members come up to you and go, I've been a lifelong fan of the Eagles or a lifelong fan of the Creedence, and you guys were as great as the original artist, if not better. And that's our benchmark right there. We know what we expect and what we would expect if we were audience members going to see the show, but we look towards the audience for them to tell us if we're getting it right.
Yeah, and it is, from an audience member's point of view, it's really quite nice to be able to, after the show, and I recall speaking to the lead guitarist in the Pink Floyd thing, and to be go up and talk to him, and he looked nothing like, when you see him live, think, this is not the person I saw on stage. But the reality of these people that are so passionate about what they're doing and so keen to make it a wonderful night, to test their own skills, but also make it a memorable night for the audience. To be able to engage in conversation with someone after the show like that is an extraordinary opportunity. So I'm pleased you said that, because I reckon there's a lot of people who'd be happy to do that.
Oh, 100%. And we like to hear that. We like to hear from the audience to say, well, it was good, but it wasn't great. Okay, we take that on board.
We have people standing at the front of the studio every Saturday saying the same thing.
Yeah.
Hey, Peter, we better get going because we've got things to do and so do you, but we do need to pump up this show. It's going to be held on Thursday the 13th of March, and it's at the Story House at Geelong Arts Centre. Have you been to that facility before?
This is my first time. I've done several shows down your way, but haven't played Geelong.
Well, you are in for a very pleasant surprise, I can tell you.
Yeah, it's a great venue now. We're very proud of it in Geelong, and it attracts quality acts like yours. It's a great place to be.
Now, you're not going to believe this, Rob. You can still get tickets. That in itself is surprising, although we're still a few weeks out. 13th of March, so it's about 4 or 5 weeks away. $65. 65. That's cheap at half the price, I would have thought. So that is a great deal. $65 for 2 hours, well, more than 2 hours of great music from the 70s predominantly. There'll be a little bit, I suspect, sneaks into the 80s, but it sounds like an absolute ripper. Get along, get your tickets through the Geelong Arts Centre website, geelongartscentre.org.au. Kings of Country Rock. Peter, thanks for being part of the program today.
No worries at all. Really appreciate you having me on. And just a quick note to all your listeners, be quick to get your tickets because there's not too many left.
I just had a look at the ticket availability. The entire stalls area, bar one seat, is gone. The next level up, there's a handful of tickets. There's a few more up in the gods. They are starting to go fast, even though we're 6 weeks out. The only warning we must give you is at the end of the show, you can check out any time you like. We will... Sorry, it was sitting there. We are going to play a Creedence song on the way out. Peter Timms, thanks so much. You can be followed. People can follow you on Facebook, can't they?
Yeah, absolutely. They can find the show on Facebook, the Kings of Country Rock, and there's plenty of great content on there. So, visit, hit the like, hit the follow. You can also find us on Instagram, TikTok, so our young social media advisor tells me.
Yep. And more importantly, on the 13th of March, you can find him in Ryrie Street, Geelong. We'll talk to you then. Thanks, Peter.
Thanks a lot.
See ya.